Quinn started to think about the question Leo had asked him. If I answer this wrong, will he attack me? Or maybe even turn me in? Quinn thought. If Quinn was to lie, he would be able to tell. Everything about the current human society made Quinn feel sick to his very core. Why did the military design this caste system that put everyone into categories? In a way, he wanted to see the current society fail. But did he want everyone to die? No. He couldn't exactly call himself human anymore. If they found out what he was, would they accept him over to their side? Probably not. Humans were scared of the unknown. But two people had already done it. Layla and Vorden did know what he was, and didn't stop speaking to him or treated him any differently. Quinn knew what his answer was. I'm on my own side, but there are people I want to protect on this side too. For a second, Leo just stood there silently. I guess my answer was okay then, Quinn said as he let out a huge puff of air. Get yourself a new weapon, kid, Leo shouted. You're going to need it for the portal expedition, and my offer still stands. Feel free to have a duel with me whenever you wish. The combat classes had ended, and Quinn didn't end up doing much in today's session. With no equipment of his own, he had to pick something else from the wall. But when he tried using a sword, he realized how much practice you needed before he could even become half decent at the thing. Using his fist just felt natural to him, especially since nearly all of his skills required him to use his hands. This meant more than anything that he needed a new set of gauntlets. He finally sat down on the computer and went on to the marketplace. Enter username ID. I'll just use the same one as my game. Blood Evolver. Next, he started to search for gauntlets. There weren't as many online compared to other weapons, but there was still plenty to choose from. Let me give you a tip, the system said. Place your hand on the computer and use your inspect skill while looking at the item. Suddenly, he could see the stats of all the weapons that were in front of him. The second thing was the price of the gauntlets. They ranged from anywhere between 6,000 to 8,000 credits. In the end, he finally decided the best thing to do was to sell the advanced tier crystal. Quinn then started to search for a deathbat crystal on the marketplace, hoping to figure out what price he could sell it at, but to his surprise, there wasn't a single deathbat crystal up for sale. He did the base price of the crystal plus around 2,000 extra credits, selling it for 12,000 in total. And done. Now all I need to do is wait for it to be sold, then I can buy 2 intermediate crystals and get the weapon from the system. Ding! It had only been a few seconds, but someone had already put up the money for the crystal. With it came a portal confirmation number. All Quinn needed to do was to go to the storage unit and place the crystal in the teleporter. Once entering the confirmation number, it would teleport the item to the user on the other end. Somewhere in a dark room, a kid with his hair gelled backwards that looked to be a similar age to Quinn was on his computer browsing the marketplace. No way! And only for 12,000 credits! I have to buy this straight away. A man then appeared from the shadows and stood next to the boy. Young master, if your father finds out you didn't get the crystals through your own effort, he will be furious. Every one of us had to go hunt those beasts as a trial for ourselves, the man said. Ha ha! My father thought he could stop me. Now with the ring, I can finally leave this place. He then looked at the computer screen once again. Thank you, Blood Evolver. You have made my day. If I ever meet you in real life, I promise I will repay this debt. After sending away the advanced tier crystal, it didn't take long for Quinn to receive the money. He looked at his watch, and 12,030 credits were all his. The shop stated that the gauntlets he was after didn't need any specific type, so he went ahead and purchased the 2 cheapest ones he could find at 1,000 each. The better equipment would allow him to hunt stronger beasts and earn more money. After searching and searching, he decided to fork out a load of money on a pair of black boots. He purposely chose a design that didn't look too fancy, but also gave him the best stats. As he walked over to the storage room, he couldn't help but have a skip in his step. Quickly, he lifted 2 boxes and started to rush off towards his dorm room. He placed both of the boxes down and immediately ripped into them. Inspect. Intermediate black-horned wolf boots. Agility +4. Defense +2. When boots are active, can increase the user's speed by 10% for 30 seconds. If hit while active, speed will return to normal. Next were the 2 intermediate crystals he had bought. He held each of them in his hand, and the message had appeared. Would you like to store intermediate beast crystals too in your inventory? After selecting yes, the 2 crystals started to disappear and suddenly vanished out of the palm of his hands. Would you like to create the best standard intermediate gauntlets? Cost 3 intermediate crystal. When he opened his eyes and looked down, the gauntlets were placed in his hand. Inspect. Best standard intermediate beast gauntlets. Strength +6. Defense +4. When using the skills Blood Swipe and Blood Spray, attacks will be 5% stronger. Let me show you something cool, the system said. Open up your dimensional portal using your shadow skill and place both of the boots and gauntlets in there. He did as told and opened up a small shadow portal, putting both of the items in. Weapons and armor detected in dimensional space. New skill Shadow Equip acquired. Shadow equipment? What does it do? Quinn asked. Just try it out and see. Shadow Equip activated. As soon as the skill was active, clouds of shadow surrounded his hands and feet. He could feel something forming on top of his hands and legs. Then, when the shadow clouds disappeared, the equipment he had put in the portal was now on him. It was like instant equipment. With this, Quinn didn't need to wear all his equipment beforehand. He could even hide high levels of equipment from the eyes of others and be ready for a fight any time. With the new equipment all set up and ready, Quinn was itching to test it out, and he knew the perfect place to test it, the VR game. Unknown to Quinn, though, the last time he played, he had caused quite a stir, and one person in particular had been checking the game every day for Quinn to log in. Logan was waiting for him. This time when he logged in, he was going to find out just who this blood evolver was. When Quinn entered the room, Vorden was already inside on his bed relaxing. Actually, something has been really bugging me about the whole Peter situation. It's obvious someone asked him to do it, right? And they had already set up a fall guy to take the blame. But when I tried to find out what happened to that person today, not a single person knew. Everyone just kept saying the punishment was dealt with by Duke, since he's a second year. I know, Quinn said as he snapped his fingers. Why don't you ask Layla? Apparently when we left, they ran into those friends of Peter's. Quinn, you do know me and her don't get on, right? Well, I know you're going to have to. We have the expedition next week. You're not actually going to try to become friends with her, are you? Rayton asked. Just kill her and then he doesn't have to choose. We are his best friend. Done. Deal and off. With Vorden investigating the situation, that meant Quinn would be free to head to the VR room tomorrow, but before he shut his eyes to go to sleep, he decided to have a look at the tutorial video he had unlocked while reaching level 10. Once again, the blonde man appeared, who looked like he was in some type of dojo. By now, you should have also unlocked the skill Blood Spray and learnt the skill Hammer Strike. What's even better is if you combine the two skills together. Rather than spreading out like it usually did, it was compact and came out together in a thick line. In the video, a loud sound could be heard. Whoops, the blonde man said. Looks like I will have to make some repairs to the dojo. This move I call Hammer Spray. The next day when they awoke, Quinn was greeted with his usual message. Avoid sunlight for 8 hours, 5 EXP gain, 10 of 100 EXP. Quinn was glad that after he evolved his EXP points seemed to have reset. Quinn headed to the VR room while Vorden started to head outside the building. Standing just outside the gate was Aaron and Layla. As soon as Layla spotted Vorden, no, he couldn't be. Is he walking over to us? She thought. For the first time, Vorden was stuttering in his life, but it wasn't because he was scared. It was because of Rayton yelling all sorts of things in his head. I need your help, he blurted out. The look on Layla's face was one she had never made before. Finally, Quinn had arrived at the VR center and went up to the counter. It was early in the morning, so there weren't a lot of people around yet. Besides, people didn't usually want to spend their weekends playing a game all day. He looked around and then, when no one was looking, opened up his dimensional void to pull out his boots and gauntlets. He placed them both in the scanner, and when the process was finished, proceeded to put them away back in his dimensional void again. Welcome, Blood Evolver. After entering the pod, he was transported to the blank white space. He tried to use his shadow abilities just as he had done his blood abilities. However, this time they did not work. Time to test out these new skills. Searching for same-level opponents. To start off with, he just wanted some easy picking to test out his skills, but the second he started to search, his player ID had gone online. Oh, I haven't seen him in a while, Nate said. Now spectating Blood Evolver. But he wasn't the only one keeping an eye on him. So was Logan. He had set up the system so it would ping him as soon as the Blood Evolver went online. There was a part of him that was hoping the videos were fake. He needed to see it with his own eyes, whether or not someone was able to break the system. After searching for a minute or so, a suitable opponent was found. Equipped with his new boots and gauntlets, his stats were as high as they ever had been.
Strength 16 plus 6, Stamina 15, Agility 16 plus 4, Charm 5.
The countdown began, and the game had started. In an instant, Quinn rushed forward. With his new boots, he felt lighter and faster than ever. The first fight was simply a test of everything he could do. He would run from side to side. His opponent found it nearly impossible to keep up with him. The user then prepared the water held in his hand and started to form a long blade with it. After running around the room for 30 seconds, the boots had finally worn off, and now Quinn was heading straight for his opponent.
5-minute cooldown before wind run can be used again.
He's really going to just run straight at me? The user thought, and when Quinn was close enough, he swung his water blade across right at him. He looked the user in the eye and for the first time, activated his new skill.
Daze has been activated. Your opponent has been stunned.
Suddenly a fear had set into the water user's mind. A shiver was sent down his spine, and when he tried to move his hand, there was no response. Quinn then threw out his fist, and right when it landed on the user's stomach, he activated his blood spray at the same time.
Winner, Bloody Volver.
It had only taken a single punch with blood spray to finish his opponent off. Looks like all my vampire abilities work here, not just my blood skills. Well, that's good to know. Logan had even checked beforehand and confirmed that Quinn had selected no ability before entering the game. He quickly started typing rapidly onto his keyboard and searched for any information he could pull. After typing away for a few minutes, he finally found the information he needed.
User Bloody Volver. Login location, Military Base 2.
Oh, will you look at that? It seems like we're quite close after all, Logan said, smiling at his computer screen. Up in the stands, Nate found it hard to keep his mouth closed after what he had just seen. But how? We only fought a couple of weeks ago. Was he holding back, or did he really just get that much stronger in the short amount of time? After Quinn won his first match, he had a feeling that something was missing, but he couldn't quite put his finger on it. Wait a minute. Where's my EXP? Just to make sure, Quinn quickly searched for another level 1 opponent. His opponent was found, and in this match, he wasted no time in dealing with the enemy. Bloody Volver victory. Again, though, there was no system message for EXP. System, what's the meaning of this? You evolved. You're now a level 10. The experience needed was reset. In simple terms, your opponent was too weak for you, so the system didn't reward you with any EXP. Quinn cursed underneath his breath. Frustrated by the situation even more, Quinn went to quickly search for his opponent, hoping it would find him a random user of a higher level that would at least give him some experience. As he used his inspect skill on his new opponent, he was now going up against a level 4 user with an earth ability. Before the match had started, Quinn failed to notice the stands around him were getting filled. More people were starting to watch his games. Hey, so do you think this is that hacker? Oh yeah, I remember seeing a forum post about it a few days ago on their website. A user who used red energy. I thought it was fake though. Well, we will just have to wait and see. Quinn, looking at his opponent, was wondering just how strong he might be. It was the first time he was fighting against a user who wore beast equipment over his whole body, which meant he would have added stats from the equipment. 3, 2, 1. The match had finally begun. This time, though, Quinn wasn't going to charge in on the get-go. He moved forward until he was within the 5-meter range of Blood Swipe and swung a single attack out as a tester. The Earth user then stomped his foot on the ground, and a solid wall of earth rose from the floor, blocking the attack. A hard earth spear had risen from behind and stabbed Quinn in the back, causing him to stumble to the floor. 46 of 55 HP. Damn, that's what I get for staying still. But before Quinn could even fully recover, several more spears had risen from the ground, coming straight for him. He rolled and dodged the first few before getting back up on his feet. This match was going to be harder than he initially thought. Windwalk, boost activated. Using the boot skill, he was able to increase his speed and avoid all the spears coming towards him from the ground. What an annoying little fly, the Earth user shouted. He then lifted both hands together to create 2 long walls that went past Quinn. As he brought his hands together, the walls moved with it. Now you can only go in one direction. With no other options, Quinn had no choice but to run straight ahead, but he had a plan. Skill daze! Daze failed, user not stunned. Oh, crap! Just then the Earth user created another wall in front of him, then started to punch the wall several times. The parts of the wall came flying out at incredible speed. The attacks were too fast for Quinn to react in time. The pieces of rock ended up hitting him one by one and sending him back. 42 of 55 HP, 38 of 55 HP, 34 of 55 HP. But Quinn gritted his teeth and managed to not fall over. I guess even with his strange red powers, he just can't beat a high level. Well, I guess it was all just hype in the end. But one person thought differently. Come on, Blood Evolver, I could beat this guy in my sleep. I know you're better than this, Nate said. To do this. Quinn had had enough. He started charging forward once again. The Earth user created another wall in front of him and had done the same attack as last time, punching the wall, causing rocks to fly out. Let's see what's stronger. Matching each rock, Quinn started to throw out a blood swipe for every rock thrown at him. Quinn's blood swipe was clearly stronger, destroying the rocks and continuing to go forward. Seeing this, the Earth user had no choice. He jumped back and had put up rows and rows of walls between the two of them, creating a barrier around 3 meters thick. Do your wall! Quinn then started to make the motion of the hammer strike, bringing the energy up from his toes to the top of his body. That's it! That's the strike that was used against me, Nate said excitedly. Nate was worried. Although it was clear the Blood Evolver was strong, it was also clear he was an amateur when it came to fighting. Take this! Blood Hammer! Quinn screamed as he let out the hammer strike, and just at the right moment, activated his blood spray at the same time. As his fist hit the wall, it instantly started to shatter and burst into pieces all over the arena. Fragments of the wall came flying out into the stadium. The strike continued to blast through the wall. This was something the Earth user had never expected. I'll just have to take the hit then, he said, but as the attack hit him, he instantly burst into blue particles, ending the game. Victory, Blood Evolver! At that moment, though, Quinn had collapsed to the floor. Soon after, though, he was transported back to his own lobby space, where his strength would be returned. The whole crowd was silenced. Just who was that guy? Someone said. Hey, can one of you upload that and put it on the forum? Maybe an original has managed to get their ability in the game somehow. While the others were excited and chatting away, Nate's whole body was shaking. That attack, it wasn't the same one he used against me. He knew that if he had taken that attack head-on, like he did the hammer strike last time, half of his health wouldn't have gone down. So, you really did get stronger. Well, I will just have to get stronger then. Back inside the lobby, all of his stat points had been returned. So Quinn was no longer on the floor gasping for air like he had just sprinted a whole marathon. The blood hammer strike skill took up a lot more stamina than I thought. The smile was suddenly on Quinn's face. User defeated, 25 EXP gained, 40 of 100 EXP points. Finally, after defeating a level 4 ability user, the system had rewarded him for his hard work. He exited from the pod and to his surprise, what looked like a little boy was standing in front of him. Hey, Blood Evolver, Logan said. Looks like we finally meet. The boy standing in front of Quinn was quite short. His height only reached to about Quinn's chest. So how did you do it, huh? Logan asked. He immediately walked past and shoved Quinn to the side and started inspecting the pod he was just using. He placed his hand on top of the machine and closed his eyes. Doesn't look like any modifications have been made to the pod. Then how? Logan mumbled. Then when looking at Quinn, he spotted that his watch had the number 1 displayed. What? That's impossible, though. You use such powerful skills in the game. You should at least be a level 5. I could have sworn you were an original. In return, Quinn looked at his watch and saw the number 8 on it. Just looking at the number struck fear into his heart, and he froze. Should I make a run for it? You're not thinking of running, are you? Because I haven't finished questioning you. I need to know how. How did you manage to break my game? Logan shouted as he started to go off into a rant. I can understand if you hacked into the system, but this I just don't understand. Logan started getting closer to Quinn as he rambled like a madman. Why do I seem to attract the strangest people? Quinn thought. If you don't want to answer me here, then you can go with me to my dorm room. There's plenty of time and nobody will be able to see us. As Logan touched Quinn's hand to pull him over, something strange had happened. Ability detected. Alterations to the system are trying to be made. Alterations have been blocked. But the strangest thing was, Quinn wasn't the only one who was seeing these messages. Logan was too. He animatedly let go and touched his hand as if he had been scratched by something. You! Are you a— This was it. Before Quinn could do anything, his cover had been blown. Would he have to fight to the death to keep his identity a secret, or would he use his shadow cloak skill to hide and run away? Maybe he could run to one of the portals and live his life on another planet. Are you a robot? Logan shouted. Huh? Quinn replied, confused. You have a system. My ability confirmed it. You must be a robot with a powerful master, an ability that goes above mine. Did Richard Eno create you? That would also explain the game. A robot can't have any MC points, and those attacks must be programmed into your artificial brain. Looking at little Logan now, he just seemed like an excited little kid. Was it better off telling him the truth, or coming up with some other type of lie? Quinn thought hard. He took a deep breath. I'm not a robot, but for some reason one day I woke up and had this system ability. Maybe it was a gift from a god, who knows. The skills you saw are some of the things I can do, Quinn replied. Is it an ability similar to mine then? I wonder who did this to you. Maybe they turned you into an android. Android technology has come a long way, but the use of AI systems inserted into their brain was banned. Quinn looked at Logan, who now wouldn't stop staring at him. Then a thought came to his mind. He had been looking for someone who would be able to help him out with the watch. It was clear that Logan knew a lot about machinery, and something like changing the number displayed on the watch would be easy for him. Can you keep this a secret? Quinn replied. Maybe the two of us can work together, perhaps find who did this to me. There are a few things I need help with. Logan was genuinely fascinated by this ability. He had never seen anything like it before, and the curiosity was already driving him mad. Of course, it would also give me the chance to study with you. Logan then put out his hand. The name is Logan. Quinn, he replied, as the two shook hands. Ability detected. Alterations to the system are trying to be made. Alterations have been blocked. Logan then pulled his hand away again, almost immediately. That does not feel good. Maybe we should avoid touching each other for now? Agreed, Quinn laughed nervously. Just outside the school at the front gates, the unexpected had just occurred. Layla was struggling to stand as she had just heard certain words come out of Vorden's mouth. First, I'm going to have to ask you to step back a bit, Layla said, and no touchy-touchy from you. Look, I'm trying to be reasonable here, Vorden said. Come on, Quinn said that you could help me. Every time she looked at Vorden, she remembered when she was being choked by him. It wasn't a good feeling, and her senses were still tingling all over the place every time he approached. If it wasn't for the fact that Aaron was standing by her side, she would have run the second she saw him coming over. The two of them soon would also be going to the portal expedition together. It was important they try their best to make up while they could. She let out a big breath and gave in. Fine, what is it? Actually, it's related to Peter. Quinn said that you two had spoken to him while we were away on the other planet. Did you manage to get anything out of him? No, I could tell that we wouldn't. It seemed like he was scared of something, even with Aaron there threatening him, which meant whatever he was scared of was a bigger problem than Aaron, Layla said. Well, I don't think we can get anything out of Peter right now. I was hoping by outcasting him like this, he would go back to the person who put him up to this. Wait, what? Layla said. You mean you're doing this whole thing on purpose? I understand he needs to be punished, but don't you think you're going a little too far? Too far? Vorden replied. You don't even know what really happened there. Were you nearly killed by a blood-sucking beast, abandoned in a world full of monsters everywhere? Blood-sucking beasts? So did Quinn really? Just then, Layla stopped herself as she turned to look at Aaron by her side. Anyway, if you can't get anything out of Peter, then try a first-year student named Earl. He was the one hanging around Peter before this whole thing started. Earl, got it. Thanks for the help, Vorden said. Oh, before I go, Aaron, do you mind if I touch your hand? Aaron stood up from the ground and looked at Vorden for a few seconds. I hope you use it well, Aaron said as she held out her hand. With her ability copied, Vorden then turned away and walked off. He's a tough one, Aaron shouted. Even with my threats, he didn't reveal anything. Don't worry, Vorden said, smiling back. I know someone who taught me a few things. Vorden continued to walk off back into school. Hey, Rayton, looks like I might have a job for you soon.
Quinn and Logan were in a different part of the school building than Quinn was usually in.
They were in the dorm room area, but were on the floor directly above where Quinn would usually stay and sleep. "We're here," Logan said. As Quinn looked around, he noticed they were fewer doors and were further spaced apart. "What is this place?" Quinn asked. "It's the VIP dorms. If your family makes a generous donation to the military before coming here, then you get access to one of these rooms." As he opened the door, Quinn was amazed by the sight in front of his eyes. The whole room was filled with what Quinn could only call junk. There were piles of scrap metal everywhere, and lying across the entire place were gadgets, little spaceships, controllers, and all sorts. There were two things that stood out in the room. One of them was a large human-sized tube that seemed to be hooked up to a computer and had large tube-like wires hanging from the top, and right next to that was a VR pod, one of the ones that cost 100,000 credits to buy. Logan then went to sit into his mechanical chair that instantly sprouted a load of arms and started to give him a massage. "So what did you want help with?" Logan asked. "I was wondering if you would be able to hack the watch for me, allow it to display a number of whatever I want." "I should be able to do that easily for you, but first you need to tell me why." Quinn hesitated for a little bit. He had only just met Logan. I think I know what you're thinking," Logan said. "Well, trust me, I won't be telling the government, the military, or anyone anything. I'll be honest with you, Quinn, I don't care about you. I care about the person who was able to input a system into your mind. To find that person, I need you to lead me to him, and before that happens, I'm not letting anyone take you away." Logan's words sounded a little scary and harsh to Quinn, but at least they were honest. "As you know, my system has a certain set of skills that are allowed to be used in the game, but the thing is, I actually do have an ability." Quinn then lifted the shadow and started to move into a giant hand, and used it to wave at Logan. If it wasn't for the fact that Logan was sitting down, he would have fallen down from the shock. "What is that? So, you really are an original?" "Not quite. It was an ability the system already had, but for some reason, as you can see," Quinn said, pointing at his watch, "it doesn't register on the watch." 1,000 thoughts started to race through Logan's mind of why it might be. "The watch is a simple fix, but if I do this for you, I was wondering if you could do me a favor," Logan said, looking at the wired tube machine. Quinn started to sweat, looking at the thing. "Don't look at me like that. The machine there is for the game. Will you let me put your shadow abilities in the game?" Logan asked. Quinn decided to think long and hard about Logan's suggestion. "I'm sorry," Quinn said. "This ability is not mine. Do you know what happened to me recently?" "What happened to you?" Logan said, puzzled. Quinn went on to explain how recently he had gone to a red portal planet along with his friend Vorden. "I see," Logan said. "I guess I have been in my room too much." Logan sat down, thinking for a while. The robotic hands had finished massaging him, and now behind him, coffee was being made from another machine. "Well, how about this? You still help me get the ability into the game, but I won't make the ability public. If you want, you can come up here and play the game on a private server. I get to study you a bit more, and you get to practice. It's a win-win." As soon as Logan finished talking, he turned around and started to take a sip of his coffee, letting out a sigh of relief. "Ah, the perfect temperature. So what do you think?" There seemed to be no downside if Quinn was to agree. "All right, Logan, I'll do it." Logan jumped out of his chair and had a smile on his face. "Great, let's get to work." Following Logan's instructions, Quinn did as asked and got into the strange, large glass test tube. Once he was inside, the glass lowered, and now he was trapped in a small space. At the same time, Logan rushed over to his computer and started typing away. "Can you hear me all okay, Quinn?" "Yeah, I'm a little nervous this is going to hurt." "Relax, you big baby," Logan said. "Now all I need you to do is slowly use your abilities while in the tube." Quinn proceeded to use his abilities as instructed. Numbers on the computer screen were scrolling about like crazy, but as Quinn looked over, it seemed like Logan wasn't typing anything. Right now, his eyes were closed, and his hand was the only thing on the computer. Is it his ability? Quinn thought. The tests continued with Quinn demonstrating his shadow cloak skill and also his shadow equip skill. "And we're done," Logan said, rubbing his eyes. He then got out from his chair and started to walk over to his bed. "All the data has been uploaded to that VR capsule by your side. If you want to practice, then go ahead. I'm going to take a nap. I'm beat." After lying down on his bed, a few seconds later, he was fast asleep, smiling away. "He's quite trusting to be able to sleep in a room while you're still here," the system said. "If only he knew what you really were. I wonder if he would feel so safe." Looks like you're starting to talk to me now, even when I don't ask you questions, Quinn replied. After entering the VR capsule and entering the game, Quinn was transported to the white space. When looking at the list of abilities, his shadow abilities had shown as one of the options. After selecting the shadow ability, Quinn immediately got to trying a few things. Over the next week, Quinn continued to come to Logan's room every day to practice using his shadow ability. Logan had long done as he promised and had hacked into the watch. Now all Quinn had to do was tap the watch fast 3 times to switch between level 1 and level 6. Then finally, after a week had passed, he had achieved what he had set out to do. His shadow control skill was now level 2, and so is his shadow equip skill. Shadow control level 2, shadow cloak level 1, dimensional void, shadow equip level 2. Looking at the other skills, Quinn was tempted to unlock some of the others, especially since one of the skills required 50 points to unlock, called Shadow Eater. But in the end, he decided to go with the system's suggestion and purchased the Shadow Void skill for 20 points. Shadow Void level 1 unlocked. Shadow Void, the ability to create a space surrounded by shadows in a specific area. The space created will last a total of 1 hour, minus 50 MC points, to cast the skill. While in the VR game, Quinn tried to test out the new skill. However, when he tried using it, nothing happened. Oh, I guess Logan needs to program any new skills into the game as well. As he exited the capsule, he released it as the last time he would see the thing in a while, because tomorrow was finally the day where the first years were to go out on their first portal outing. Finally, the day for the portal outing had arrived. All the first-year students had been told to gather up in the training hall. When Quinn entered the room, he noticed it straight away. Nearly all the portals in the room had been pushed to the side of the hall, and only a single green portal stood in the center. The entire of Dell's class had arrived, which numbered around 50 students altogether. "All right, boys and girls," Dell said as he stood just in front of the portal. "When you enter the portal, the communication device on your wrist will no longer work. It is important when entering the portal you keep physical touch with the person next to you. Otherwise, you will be teleported to another location." Quinn and Vorton both already knew this well. "Also, you will randomly be teleported somewhere inside the shelter. Do not be alarmed. The whole shelter is safe and guarded by the military and other travelers. The expedition is to last a week, and the goal is to bring back as many beast crystals with you as possible," Dell explained. Dell continued to explain about the portal outings. The test was also to begin as soon as the first team landed on the planet. It was up to them to decide how they should pace themselves while hunting, but the last bit of information that came from Dell's mouth was the worst news for Quinn. "Please keep track of time and be well rested. This planet's day cycle is 72 hours of sunlight before it gets dark for another 72 hours, so you will need to keep track of the time yourselves, and that is everything I need to say." At that moment, Vorton and Layla turned to look at Quinn, who stood there with his mouth wide open. "Don't worry, Quinn," Layla said. "I packed the umbrella." "Umbrella?" Vorton said. "I got something even better." Vorton then reached into the bag and pulled out some sun cream. Layla immediately started to laugh as she pointed at the bottle. While Layla and Vorton continued to quietly argue away, Quinn was making sure everything was in the bag, and Erin was playing around with her beast sword. The only one who wasn't, and hadn't said a word this whole time, was Peter. He had made sure to stay quite a distance away from the others. One by one, groups would be called up to enter the portal, but before the Quinn group had been called, Quinn pulled Vorton to one side to ask him a few questions. "Hey, so, any news on who was behind the thing with Peter?" Quinn asked. "Nothing," Vorton replied. "What, seriously?" "Yep, and when I say I roughed up the kids pretty badly, I really mean it. The only thing I found out from them was you weren't the original target. It was me," Vorton explained. "Perhaps I ruffled a little too many second-year feathers." "Well, I see. Well, I guess maybe we should keep an eye on Peter for now." Just then, the number of their group had been called, and they were ready to head into the portal. Standing in a row, the group stood behind each other, one in front of the other. Each was holding on to the shoulders of the person in front. At the back was Peter, and Vorton at the front. "Now remember, don't let go," Dell instructed. "In 7 days, you are to head to the military base and return through the portal back here." One by one, they walked through, and an odd feeling came over their body. When the group opened their eyes, they were surrounded by townsfolk chatter in all sorts. Rows of buildings and shops, market stalls selling food and weapons. They had successfully made it to the shelter. But one person wasn't happy about it at all. "You are in contact with direct sunlight. Your stats will now decrease by 70%. When the group of 5 landed, they noticed that there was a circle drawn on the ground where they were, and the people walking around were doing their best to avoid it. "Come on, we better move," Vorden said. "Just give me Quinn said slowly, as he was already starting to sweat buckets. Quinn, I'm sorry," Layla said, as she rushed over and handed him the umbrella. "What's wrong with him?" Aaron asked. "Oh, he just really can't deal with the heat and hates the sun. He came from really far up north. I mean, like really far," Layla explained, babbling. Aaron looked Quinn up and down, who now had the umbrella propped up over his head. "You might be even more useless than Peter on this trip. How are you meant to fight with an umbrella in your hand?" This was a major problem. If he was to fight during the day, unless he used his Shadow Void, the sun would still affect him. But Shadow Void took up half of his MC points, not leaving him much to fight with. The other option was to use Shadow Cloak. The problem with this was he was unable to use his shadow abilities to attack while using a Shadow Cloak. It was just a stealth ability. Because of these reasons, Quinn still had to hide the shadow ability for a little longer until he found a solution to the sun. They did as Vorden said, and after a couple of minutes, another group of 5 students had landed in the same circle where they were. "How did you know?" Quinn asked. "Although the teleportation is random, it's not completely," Vorden said. "Well, where should we go first?" Layla asked. "Let's head to the Travelers' Hall. It's a place where they have information for travelers." They walked through the shelter and eventually reached a very large hangar-like building. It was an open space with no entrance, so people were free to enter and go as they pleased. "Looks like we're not the only ones here," Erin said as she looked at the groups. It was easy to spot the students as they were required to wear the military uniform. "What are they doing?" Layla asked as she saw them go up to the quest board. "It looks like they're asking for help," Vorden said. "Those from a rich family will just hire travelers to do the hunting with them." "But how is that fair?" Layla asked. "Since when have they cared about fair?" Vorden replied. "Well, there's no point worrying about it," Quinn said. "All we can do is focus on ourselves and do the best we can." "Says the useless one," Aaron added. The group walked up to one of the stalls that sold all sorts of items that would help with capturing beasts or even killing them. Behind the counter was an old man with a digital monocle over one eye. "How can I help you, young soldiers? I guess it's that time again when they send you all out to do your first hunt." "We were wondering if you could provide us with a map with all the hunting areas," Vorden asked. "Sure I can. That will be a total of 100 credits, though." 100? Layla said. "Are you sure you're not trying to rip us off?" The old man started laughing. "Well, that'll be 150 now because of the young lady's rudeness." Vorden brought out a single card that was gold in color. Since the watches didn't work on other planets, each student was to bring their own money card to be used. "Thank you for your business," the old man said. The group opened up the map, which was on some type of digital paper. On it, the map indicated where they were and different areas around them which were color-coded. It went from green, orange, and red. The closer the color was to red, the more populated the area was with beasts. But then, something caught Quinn's eye. When he fought against Nate a while ago in the VR game, he had asked Nate where his friend had obtained the strong, flexible cape. And the name of the planet, they said, was Kaladi. That they had forged it out of winged creature out in the desert. If this was true, then he might have just found the solution to his sun problem. As the group scanned the map for guidance, they noticed that all the areas closer to the shelter were more green, while the areas that were a bit further away were redder. The one area which had the darkest red of them all was the harsh, sandy desert. Quinn decided to pick up the book, which was sealed by a lock, so that others couldn't open it and read it unless they paid for it. A book containing information on beasts belonging to the planet Kaladi, read the cover. Teethworm, basic tier beast. Winged lizard, basic tier beast. Burning snake, intermediate tier beast. Please select one to find out more information. As he looked at the list of names, Quinn was deciding which one of the 3 was the beast that Nate had talked about. Out of the 3 of them, only one had matched the description. It was the winged lizard. Winged lizard. Although this beast contains wings, it cannot fly. They are also the hardest part of the beast's body. The weak point of the beast is its underbelly. It can be found in the deepest parts of the desert. The description seemed to match the material of Sam's cape, but if Quinn wanted to make a full set of clothing from it, he would definitely need a large amount of beast's cores. While he was there, he decided he might as well look at the other beasts. There was always the chance to encounter them, and if they did, it would be handy to know their strengths and weaknesses. "Hey you, if you're not buying anything, then get out of here." "I was just looking," Quinn said. The old man then walked over and snatched the book out of Quinn's hand. "I said get out now, or else." "You're lucky that people are around," Quinn said as he walked away. When Quinn arrived back at the group had decided that for the first day, they would head to one of the green areas nearby. After defeating a few basic tier beasts, they would make their way into the red zone. Although Quinn was eager to go into the red zone to get his crystals, he was happy with the decision they had made. As the group made their way towards their destination, Quinn and Vorden were in the lead and were talking about different things. "You know, while you were in that shop, Peter kept saying some weird things," Vorden said. "Do you think they might plan to do something on this trip?" Quinn asked. "I doubt it. Unlike the red portal places, there are too many people here. But the important thing is that Peter believes that they will." The area they chose to go to on the map was a small little oasis. The area was filled with beasts, known as teeth worms. They would travel under sand, but were easy to spot, as a big lump of moving sand was coming towards you. When they were close enough, they would pop out from the sand and open their circular mouth, displaying thousands of small razor-sharp teeth inside. Peter and Quinn stayed in the middle while they allowed for the others to attack the worms. Vorden and Aaron found it the easiest to deal with the worms. Layla, on the other hand, found it a little more difficult. Even when using her telekinesis ability, her arrow was too slow. The arrow would hit the sand before even hitting the beast. The only way she could overcome this was to not use her ability at all and just fire at the worms with no fear. Still, it would take a couple of arrow shots for her before the worms were dead. As Quinn saw the group killing basic beasts left and right, he felt a little sad. Not because he couldn't join in. He was happy that others were fighting, but the fact that all of these kills could have been precious experience for him. As he had this thought, a familiar voice sounded in his head. "You know, if you bloodied one of them, you would be able to gain EXP for all their kills," the system said. Quinn thought about it seriously for a while. She had already asked him to turn her into a vampire and know he really could. While thinking about whether or not to blood Layla, Quinn decided he would leave it to her and would ask her later. While the group was busy fighting away on the outside, one of the worms managed to wiggle past their formation and was heading straight for Quinn. As soon as the worm had reached the shade of the umbrella, Quinn grabbed the worm midair by the end of its tail. "So ugly," Quinn said as he squeezed it tightly with his bare hands. The center of its body was strung like a towel as black blood fell to the floor. "Basic beast killed. 10 EXP earned. First teeth worm killed, 100 bonus EXP gained. You are now level 1. 70 of 200 EXP. Strength, 16. Stamina, 15. Agility, 16. Charm, 5. You have received 2 stat points." The group had taken out a total of 9 teeth worms together. "Was this here before?" Peter said, staring at the thing. The next thing he knew, out from the mound of sand, another teeth worm came jumping out. All panicked, Peter fell to the floor and completely forgot about the earth staff he held on his back. But before the earthworm could reach him, a spear of ice came rushing from the side and killed it in one shot. Right by the oasis, another group had witnessed the whole thing and couldn't help but laugh at Peter's reaction. The leader of the group was named Ben, and he wielded a large club on his back. "Boss, watch out!" one of them shouted as a teeth worm jumped from the side. He reached out for the club on his back and was ready to slam the thing to pieces. Instead, an ice spear came out from the side and accurately stabbed it through its body and onto the sand. "You don't mind if I take that one's beast crystal, do you?" Aaron said, walking over. "Sure, go ahead," Ben replied with a fake smile. The teeth worms were no longer jumping out and attacking, and now they had time to collect the beast crystals. "How much did we get?" Ben asked. "A total of 4, boss." "Seriously?" As Ben looked over, he noticed that the other group must have obtained over 10, more than double their haul. Then he noticed something else as well. The boy at the back of the group, Peter, didn't seem to gel as well with the others. In fact, it was almost as if they were treating him as an outcast. "You're only as strong as your weakest link," Ben said with a smile. All crystals that were handed into the military base would be counted towards their points. However, the military would keep 10% of whatever they gave in to be counted. So instead, Quinn decided to keep the crystal inside his system, where it couldn't be found and sold later. The sun was still burning brightly, and it didn't look like it would set any time soon, but they knew they had been out for at least 6 hours. Then they headed straight for the military base, which was located at the center of the shelter. This was a square-like building that had several different departments. But for the next week, just in front of the building was a small stand for students. At the stand was a single adult soldier, and behind him a large digital screen. The digital screen behind him was suddenly updated. The name Layla could be seen, and the number 15 was displayed next to it. While looking at the board, Quinn also spotted Logan's name, who was second on the leaderboard with 24 points. He hadn't spotted him since this expedition, but knew he would be here since he was a first-year student. I guess that's what a power level 8 can do. He must have some pretty strong teammates with him as well, Quinn thought. Before they were to head off to sleep for the night or day, they decided that they should have a group meeting on the kitchen table. The 5 of them sat down, and Erin was the first to speak. She said, "As you all know, my goal is to come out as one of the top teams during this assessment. Right now, we're just above average, and I can't accept that. That's why I think tomorrow we should head into the red zone." "I think we're strong enough," Vorden added, "but the problem is these two." The 2 people Vorden was talking about were, of course, Peter and Quinn. To be honest, Quinn wanted to go to the red zone too. Most likely, the winged lizard lived there, but he had planned to go there when the day cycle had changed to night. Erin said, "As you can see on the map, there is a safe zone just outside of the red zone. Most likely it's a territory where 2 different beasts clash, so they don't cross each other's path. The 2 can wait there while we go inside and attack." After hearing Erin's suggestion, Quinn didn't think it was too bad. If they were to leave him and Peter alone, then perhaps Quinn could sneak off at some point to hunt the winged lizards on his own. When leaving in the morning, it looked like their group wasn't the only one heading for the red zone. There were a total of 4 other groups altogether. "That's our competition," Erin said, looking towards one of the groups who walked in front. "You see the boy at the front with the red hair? It's the trait of the Red Shield family. All originals who learn their magic acquire the ability of fire." "The ability of fire, huh?" Vorden looked at the red-haired student for some time, trying to think up an idea. But the one that interested Quinn wasn't the fire user. Instead, it was Logan, who was also part of one of the groups heading to the red zone. "I wonder what his ability really is," Quinn thought. It had to be impressive to be able to get the second highest score. Throughout the whole time the 2 of them were together, Quinn still hadn't figured it out. And for some reason, Quinn felt like it was rude to ask. Most high levels would keep their ability secret. If 2 people were to get in a fight knowing their ability beforehand was a huge advantage. While the rest of the groups continued to move forward, though, Erin's group had decided to change direction, slightly heading off to the left. "Are you sure you're going to be okay?" Vorden asked. "Don't worry about it. If trouble comes our way, I have a trick up my sleeve to fight them off," Quinn replied. "You see that building up ahead? It looks like an abandoned well of some sort. We will wait for you there, and come get us on the way back." "Boss, it looks like the group is split into 2. Maybe the strong ones are heading to the red zone. Who should we follow?" one of the men said to Ben. "We stick to the plan," Ben said. "I managed to do some research on their group yesterday. It turns out that their group had 2 level 5 power users, and wait for it, 2 level 1s if you can believe it." "Seriously? They must be like the only level 1s in their whole class. They would probably get in the way if they were to fight. If we take their crystals they got yesterday, then we will climb up from the bottom of the leaderboard." Back at the red zone, Vorden and the others had finally arrived. Most of the groups had spread out from each other, making sure that they didn't get in the way of each other's hunting process. The red zone was filled with winged lizards. Before hunting one of the beasts, the group stayed and watched patiently for one of the other groups to attack first. A single person would walk up to the group of lizards and send out an attack, catching the attention of a single beast. Then the person would lead the lizard to the group, and they would all attack it at once. They were being cautious not to attract the attention of all the lizards after all. The lizard would constantly block attacks from the beast weapons and certain abilities using the wings attached to its arms. Eventually, they would manage to defeat it. But while the other group struggled, one was finding it easy, and that was the one with the flame user named Berg. Berg's flames were stronger than the beast wings, and it didn't matter what it did, it would be set aflame, and sooner or later the beast would die. Watching this, Vorden had an even bigger smile on his face. Now, only if there was some other flame user in our group. After watching the other groups deal with the winged lizards, Vorden and his group decided to implement a similar strategy. Layla would be the first to approach one of the rocks, and then fire out an arrow, hitting the foot of one of the lizards. The lizard followed the arrow easily, and now it was Vorden and Erin's turn to deal with the beast. "You idiot," Rayton said. "You know from watching the others that it won't work." "Either shut up or help," Vorden shouted, as he continued to throw the ice spikes. But proceeding this way would take far too long. Before he knew it, he could see Erin up in the air with her long sword held in her hand. As she fell to the ground, she sliced downward at the beast's wing. Now, with one wing frozen in place, Vorden was finally able to throw an ice spear directly into its body, killing it. "Did we finally do it?" Layla said, looking at the thing. She quickly extracted the crystal and placed it inside her small bag for now. "This is a problem," Erin said. "It is taking us far too long to kill a single one of them. Even if there are many, it takes 3 of us just to kill one. We would be better off searching for another group of teethworms at this point." Then they heard cheering coming from their left side. The group with Berg in charge had just finished burning 5 of them to a crisp at once. The look on Erin's face was currently one of disgust. "Come on, let's just go into one of the other areas and find a bunch of teethworms to deal with." "Hold on," Vorden shouted. "I have a plan." Berg and his group had just finished killing their 8 lizards and were currently resting for a bit. He needed time to recover his MC points before he could use his abilities again. "I still have a long way to go," Berg said, looking at his hand. Every original family was different when it came to teaching their members about their powers. They had their own methods, and for the Red Shields, it was all about discovery. "Hey, Berg, watch out!" a voice from the side said. As he looked up, he noticed a human body was flying his way, and before he knew it, they had crashed into him. The 2 of them tumbled into the sand and eventually stopped. "Hey, how could she do that to her own teammate?" Vorden said as he lifted himself off the ground. "I'm sorry about that. Do you need a hand?" Just then, Vorden reached out his hand and lifted Berg. "Hey, what do you guys think you're doing?" another person said as he came running over. "You just barged into our leader." "Enough, Lippy," said Berg. "I'm sure it was an accident." Lippy, who was also a part of Berg's team, was surprised by his actions. If a person usually did something like this, he would have burnt them by now. But the reason was simple. When Berg looked at Vorden's watch, it currently displayed the power level of 8 on it. "We're sorry," Layla said as she came running over with Erin behind. "Our idiot teammate was being annoying, and I just needed to throw him somewhere." "Don't worry about it," Berg said. "Accidents happen." After apologizing, the 3 of them decided to leave the group be and go hunting once again. Vorden, now having the flame abilities, was ready to burn some lizards. "Why did you let them go off like that?" Lippy asked. "That person, he was a level 8 user. Let's keep an eye on them for a little bit," Berg said. Berg had seen the group just go behind one of the stones. Why did they choose to move, he thought. After walking around one of the large rocks in the center, he could see Vorden and his team. Just as Berg saw them, he could see Vorden burning one of the winged lizard using his fire powers. "What? But how?" Lippy said. "Is he part of the Red Shields?" "No, I've never seen him in my life. It looks like we've got some questions to ask." While Erin was busy carving out the beast to find its crystal, a fireball was spotted coming towards them. "Look out!" Layla shouted. At the last second, Vorden turned his head and fired a fireball of his own equal in size. As the 2 fireballs clashed, a small explosion was created, and sparks of flame flew out onto the sound. "You must be dealt with. No one is allowed to learn the secrets of the flame," Berg shouted. Shooting out fire from the palm of his hands, Berg propelled himself into the air. A stream of fire was seen coming from the bottom of his hands and feet. It looked almost like he was flying in the air. Spinning flame kick. Using one of his legs, the fire would shoot out from the back of his heel, causing him to spin. Then, with the other leg, would let out multiple blades of fire. "Damn it, I can't do that!" Vorden shouted. As the blades of fire were coming towards them, Vorden lifted both hands, creating a small wall of fire. If Vorden thought he was safe, though, he was wrong. As the blades of fire touched the wall, it ripped right through and continued to go past. By now, Layla and Erin had long moved to the side and became spectators of the whole thing, and the same could be said for Berg's teammates as well. "What is going on?" Erin asked. "I don't know, but I do know Vorden knows how to annoy a load of people. Perhaps this is just one of them," Layla said. "This guy is pretty good," Lippy said, watching the whole thing from the side. The second Berg landed on the ground. He dashed forward using the flames once again to propel him. Vorden fired fireball after fireball, but then Berg just covered his hands in flames and would knock them away. "Looks like your fire is no stronger than mine, you thief," he shouted. Then, with his hands covered in flames, he went for a punch towards Vorden's face. He could see it coming and was planning to duck, but suddenly the fist sped up in an instant and knocked Vorden into the ground with his head bouncing off the sand. Vorden laid on the ground, unmoving with his eyes closed. "What should we do?" Layla asked. "Should we go over and help him?" "I don't think they'll kill him," Aaron replied. "There are too many people here he would have to silence." "Well, he's from the Big Four, right? Would the school really do anything?" Standing right over Vorden was Berg. He continually looked at Vorden's still body. "Why isn't Boss doing anything?" Lippy said as he watched. He couldn't explain it himself, but for some reason, he felt like if he touched Vorden at this moment, he would be the one lying on the ground. Then, a few seconds later, Vorden's eyes opened. Quinn and Peter had been walking for a good 15 minutes as they headed to what looked like a little abandoned well. While the two of them were walking, not one of them had said a word to each other, and Quinn was the type that hated an awkward silence between two people. In the end, he gave in and just had to say something. "Why did you do it?" Quinn said. Peter didn't have to ask what he was talking about. It was as clear as day. They continued walking for a while longer until eventually Peter replied, "I don't want to make any excuses. I know what I did was terrible. But you don't understand, Quinn. I was scared. They had already gone for Vorden and managed to catch him. Then they went after me and—" "Enough!" Quinn snapped back. "I don't want to hear any more. You were right the first time when you said you weren't going to make any excuses. When someone does something wrong, everyone has a reason, be it good or bad. But after everything we had done for you, why didn't you come to us?" "Could you really help me, Quinn? Would you be saying the same thing if you knew who was behind everything?" Peter asked. "Did you give us a chance?" Quinn replied. "Do you know the saying, you miss all the shots you don't take?" The two of them had finally arrived at the village, and Quinn turned around to look at Peter. He could see his teary face. "When you chose to go against us that day, Peter, you were the one who had given up. You didn't try taking a shot and made your chances go down to 0. The two of them looked around the abandoned well. In the center was a giant machine used to draw water. It had rusted, and just from looking at it, you could tell it hadn't been used in a while. The only other thing in the place were 2 abandoned buildings. One room was completely bare apart from a single window, while the other building had a couple of broken wooden bed frames. After taking off the rucksack and putting it on the old bed, Peter finally laid down and was getting some rest. "I'm going to go exploring around for a little bit. Are you all right to stay here? Don't worry, I won't be going too far." "Are you sure you're going to be safe?" Peter said. "Yeah, as long as you aren't behind my back, I'll have nothing to worry about," Quinn said jokingly. "Sorry, that was a low blow." Quinn pictured the map in his head. He remembered the red zone was quite a large circular area. They had just come from the left direction, which was where Vorden and the others went. So as long as Quinn went right and forward, he should be in a different area of the red zone. With that, he decided to head off into the desert with his umbrella in his hand. Watching all of this happen was Ben and his group. "It looks like the two of them have split up. You 3 go for the kid with the umbrella. Take off everything, even his money card, and get him to transfer everything over. Me and Hugo will go get rid of the other one." They did as told, and 3 of their men went off to follow Quinn into the desert, while Ben and his friend Hugo had decided to enter the same building that Peter was in. In the desert, before Quinn had even reached the red zone, he could hear the sounds of people getting closer to him. His vision wasn't as great in the sunlight. It was about the only thing that was still affected while in the sun, but his hearing was always top-notch. "Who sent you?" Quinn said without turning around. "That's none of your business now, is it?" one of the students said. "Now you better listen to what we say or else." "Or else what?" Quinn said as he turned. "I'm sorry some people think I'm a bit slow." The students then lifted up their watches to each reveal their levels. One was a level 4 student, and the other 2 level 3s. "I hope you understand," the level 4 user said. "Oh, I see. Because you're a higher level than me, I should be scared now, right? I should obey everything you do, because I don't want to be hurt." "Skill active Shadow Void." Suddenly, from underneath Quinn's feet, his shadow started to spread. It grew and grew until it encompassed a large area in complete darkness. The shadows that formed the walls were continually moving. From the outside, it looked like a giant cloud storm. Quinn then tapped his watch 3 times and lifted it up for them to see. The number had changed. He was now a level 6. Vorden stood there, standing in the sand. He hadn't moved for a few seconds now, and his head was facing the floor. From the top of his head, a trickle of blood was dripping down onto his forehead, and little by little, droplets would fall to the ground. "Why is the boss just standing there?" Lippy asked. The truth was, Berg couldn't explain it himself. Something about the person he was facing a few seconds ago had suddenly changed. He felt the same presence as when he was just about to face one of the elders in his own family. Then, for the first time since being beaten to the floor, Vorden had moved. He lifted his hand and wiped the blood away before staring at it on his sleeve. "You guys said you would protect me." "Hey, don't look at me, Syl," Rayton said. "Vorden was the one who got knocked out before I could even do anything." "Maybe it's time for a change," Syl said. "What, and leave this person in charge?" Vorden argued. "If you do this, you will be lonelier than before. Even Quinn won't stay by your side." "Quinn. Ah, yes, Quinn," Syl said as he looked around at where he was. "I don't see any Quinn." "This will be good," Rayton said. "Hey, Syl, that man in front of you is hiding Quinn from us." Syl then looked at Berg up and down and started to walk towards him, but his face wasn't peaceful or anything. It was like that of a demon. The anger could be felt, the emotion, everything. Berg could feel it just coming from his face. "Stay back!" Berg shouted as he covered his forearms and fist in flames once again. As Syl took another step forward, Berg was at his limit and knew he needed to attack now. Placing both hands together, he started to fire a pillar of flames from his hand like a flamethrower. As the fire came towards him, Syl swung his hands, lifting a pile of sand with it and dropping it straight on the flames, causing it to extinguish. "When did he get my ability?" Layla said, watching the fight. "And why is it stronger than mine? I could never lift that amount of sand." "Vorden's ability is strange," Aaron said, "but if I remember correctly, he could control 2 abilities. Perhaps it has something to do with that?" Seeing this, Berg too was shocked. He had thought Vorden was just someone who had learnt the family secret, maybe tortured one of their members into teaching it to them. But now suddenly he was using another ability. But how was this possible? While Berg was shocked by the whole thing, he started to feel an icy presence climb up from his feet. "What is this?" he said as he saw his 2 legs freezing. In an instant, he activated the fire to cover his legs, causing it to melt the ice. But all Syl wanted to do was stall him for a second or so as he formed an ice spear and threw it directly at his shoulder. It landed and pierced Berg, but he couldn't complain long as pillars of fire were already rising from the ground. "He has your ice abilities as well," Layla said. "That's 3 abilities. Just how strong is Vorden really?" While using one hand to cast pillars of fire, the other hand would continue to throw ice spears. Berg could only dodge these 2 attacks for so long. "Come on, he has to be running out of MC soon," Berg said. Inside the black room, Rayton was busy laughing. "I bet you this guy thinks he can win the match as long as he waits for Syl to tire out." Right now, Vorden contained 3 abilities. Whenever he copied a person's ability, he also copied the amount of MC points in their body. Vorden's ability and cells were unique. As long as he had copied an ability, he would be able to change any of the MC cells into whatever type he wanted. This meant he had a huge amount of MC points to use. As the fight continued, Berg could tell that Vorden wasn't tiring out. He needed to act fast. Berg crouched into a fetal position and started to let the fire build up inside him. Then, when the attacks were right by his side, he expanded his limbs and out came a sphere of fire, getting rid of all of the attacks. But now, Berg was panting and sweating hard. It was a last-ditch effort to protect himself, but he really didn't know what to do after this. "Where is Quinn?" Syl asked as he walked over. Layla and Aaron were too far to hear any of the words Vorden had spoken, but were worried that he might do something drastic. "Crazy boy, I beg you don't do something crazy," Layla said. "Wait!" Vorden shouted. "Rayton was lying. Quinn is safe. He's somewhere else. Let me take over and I can show you." "You damn rat, Vorden!" Rayton shouted back. "Now I'm going to get my ass handed to me." "I'm tired," Syl said. Now Vorden had finally reached where Berg was standing. "I don't want to make an enemy of you, but you attacked us first," Vorden said. "I'm from the Blade family. It's probably best if our 2 families don't get into a confrontation with each other." As soon as Berg had heard Vorden's second name, he finally understood. The Blade family weren't as big as the Big Four, but that was because they chose not to be. They were a secretive family that didn't choose to have much influence in the world. Because of this, not many knew about them. Berg didn't really understand why, but his father had always said if he was to meet someone from the Blades, to show absolute respect. Berg placed his head in the ground and started to apologize. "I'm sorry. It's my fault that this all has happened. Is there anything I can do for you?" Vorden thought about it for a while. It's okay, but I'm going to have you hand over your crystals you got today and yesterday over to us, Borden said, smiling. Of course. While Aaron, Layla, and the others watched this scene, they couldn't believe what was happening. They knew Vorden wasn't original, they even knew of his family name, but they had never heard of the Blade family before. But for some reason, someone from the Big Four was bowing down to him, apologizing, and even handing over their crystals. Just who are you, Vorden? Layla thought. Berg and his group handed over the crystals they had obtained inside a bag. Vorden now had a big grin on his face. Quinn had asked him to try to get as many winged lizard beast crystals as possible, saying he needed them for some reason. And right now, in the bag, there were 39 winged lizard crystals in total. Walking over with a skip in his step, Vorden was over the moon about his haul. As Layla peeked inside the bag, she couldn't believe her eyes. What? I don't understand, Layla said. How? Don't worry about that. I think it's best if we head back and hand these crystals in to be counted towards our score. But aren't those crystals useless? Layla asked. Most of them have already been counted. Each crystal inside had a unique pattern to it. When the crystals are counted, they are placed into a machine that assigns a certain code to each crystal. These unique codes are then added to the team's scoreboard. The whole shelter was under strict instructions to not sell any beast crystals to any students. This was to avoid a group from buying crystals and registering them under their points. But there was a reason why these unique codes were assigned to each team's codes. Oh, I guess you guys don't know, Vorden said. My brother did the same thing 2 years ago, so I have a little bit of insider information, I guess. Although the same crystals can no longer be registered for points, if the crystals belong to another team, the unique codes from their score will go into ours. This information was purposely kept from the students, but was told to a select few. Either originals like Vorden knew of it, or those who had already registered with the military. Well, I hate to say it, but you did a really good job this time, Layla said while pouting. Well, while we're ahead, why don't we keep on hunting? Aaron asked. The truth is, I'm worried about Peter. Because of this, he might be targeted, Vorden said. If you knew about this, then why didn't we leave him at the shelter? Aaron asked. If we did, it would just be the same result. Perhaps even more so. People would attack him as soon as they saw him on the street. There was a second reason why Vorden and Quinn wanted to bring Peter along. They were hoping to draw out whoever Peter was afraid of. No one would attack a fellow student like that. Are you crazy? Aaron said. Even if it meant getting their crystals, no human being would just attack another because of the test. And even so, people would rush over to help him. At that point, Vorden and Layla looked at each other, and both of them had the same thought. Aaron, you do know that Peter is a level 1, right? Vorden asked. What does that have to do with anything? She replied. It was as the two had thought. Aaron was unaware of the treatment that lower levels received compared to everyone else. Aaron herself never mistreated lower levels, but just never paid them any attention either. She had one goal, and getting to know them wouldn't allow her to achieve anything. As the three of them started to head back to where the well was, the two of them began to explain to Aaron just what happened at the school. But the strong would never steal from the weak, Aaron said. Just what does that prove? We already know we are stronger than them. Aaron just couldn't comprehend why certain people would choose to do such things. Every person is different, Vorden replied. Honestly, if we knew all the answers to why people acted a certain way, then perhaps we wouldn't be in the situation we are in right now. At that very moment, Vorden's fear was becoming a reality, as Ben and his group had just spotted Peter inside one of the buildings.
As Peter heard the footsteps enter the small little building he was in, he quickly realized that he had no way of escape. Now this can be nice and easy for you, Ben said. All we want are those crystals in your bag. As soon as Ben stepped forward, Peter lifted the earth pole towards Ben's face, and then using his ability, transformed the end of it into a sharp tip. Please, Peter said, let's not do this. I can't. If you take the crystals away, they'll hate me even more. Tears were now visibly running down his face and falling to the ground. Peter stood firmly, not allowing the spear to move. It was pointed at Ben. Look, it's Peter, right? Ben said. Suddenly, Peter's face changed a little when he heard his name. Do you know why I know your name? We're part of the military, too. In fact, Duke was the one who gave us all the information. I promise you that Duke will reward you if you hand those crystals over to us. Seeing the change in Peter's eyes, Ben thought his words were a success, but when he stepped forward again, Peter decided to go in for a stab. "I said I'm not letting anyone take them," he shouted. As the spear was thrust forward, one of Ben's friends from the side lifted his hand, and with it, an earth wall was placed between the two of them. The wall managed to catch the spear in the center and snap it in half. A few seconds later, a huge club had been swung and smashed the wall into pieces, also hitting Peter and sending him flying back. The blow was so powerful that Peter didn't just crash into the wall, but caused it to collapse and was now outside covered in rubble. "What a useless struggle. I would have thought someone like you would have been broken in by now," Ben said as he walked through the hole in the wall and stared at Peter on the ground. Peter was barely conscious. A small trail of blood was appearing from his mouth, and his whole face and hair were covered in debris from the wall. "Please, don't hate me," Peter said. "I'm sorry, Peter. This is just how the world is." At that moment, Peter passed out. Ben went through Peter's bag and took the 15 crystals that were obtained in yesterday's expedition. They then also took Peter's money card. They decided to leave everything else intact: the food pills, the water purifiers, and the first aid supplies. Ben and his friend had decided they would head to the shelter together, but before heading back, they would make a stop at the oasis to hunt some more teethworms. As they were walking, one of them spotted something large and black in the sky coming toward them in their direction. "What is that?" one of them asked. "I don't know, I think it's a spaceship, but I've never seen one designed like that before," Ben replied. The black object drew closer, and it was roughly the same size as a large car. Then finally, just in front of them in the sandy desert, the ship had crashed. "Get out of the way!" Ben shouted. "Do you think they're okay?" "They're lucky the ship didn't blow up," he said. "I wonder what happened." But while Ben's friend had no clue what it was, Ben was visibly shaking with fear. He had seen images of one of these before. "Run! Run now!" Ben shouted. The sphere-like shape opened up, and out stepped what was known as a Dalki. Out on the sandy desert where the area was mostly covered with rocks and sand, one area looked different today. From the outside, it looked like a dark cloud that was continuously moving and shifting, creating a large dome-shaped space. "What is this?" one of the men said. The three from Ben's group were now surrounded by moving shadows. "Did you see his watch?" another one said. "He was actually level 6. We need to get out of here." Inside the shadow void, Quinn could feel a connection with the shadows. It was hard to explain, but it was as if it was created using a part of his own body. Quinn looked at his stats, and as the system had told him, everything was normal. There was no weakness in the sun. While Quinn was busy checking his stats, one of the men tried to make a break for it. He ran to the edge of the shadow void walls. Out of instinct, as Quinn saw this, he lifted his arm and started to shift the wall of the shadow into some type of arm. When the man was close enough, he tried swinging his dagger at the arm, but when it made contact, his arm started to slow down. They felt like they were trapped. "This guy," Mohawk said. "You saw the number on his watch change, right? He's probably a fake, and besides, being a level 6 doesn't mean he has strong abilities." The other two, hearing Mohawk's words, gave them a bit of confidence. "Yeah, you're right, and he doesn't even have any beast gear," one of them said. "Get him!" Mohawk shouted. The crossbow user pulled out his bow and started to firebolt after bolting toward Quinn. "Shadow equip." Shadows started to form around Quinn's arms and legs, and suddenly they were covered in beast gear. As the first bolt came towards him, he lifted his hand, deflecting the bolt onto the ground. "What? But that was a beast arrow. It wasn't just made out of metal," the crossbow user said. "Just keep firing the thing," Mohawk shouted. He did as ordered, and arrow bolts started to fire one after another. This time, as they came forward, the other user who had remained still had gathered what looked like a small hurricane in his hands, and then at the right moment, he brought his hands forward, and a gust of wind came out with it. "Let's see you deal with this." "Blood spray, 55 of 60 HP. A spray of blood left the palm of his hands and knocked each of the arrows out of the air, causing them to break and fall to the ground. "Now it's my turn." Quinn activated his wind walk on his boots to further increase his speed. While doing so, he used the inspect skill on each one of them. The crossbow user could duplicate items, although each item that was duplicated would only be half the strength of the original. The other student was a wind ability user, and lastly, Mohawk was a level 4 earth user. First, the annoying one. With Quinn's added speed with the boots and his reflexes, it was nearly impossible for the crossbow user to hit him, and then when Quinn was close enough, he cast out 4 blood swipes, swinging out his arms. With no defense, the 4 attacks each hit him dead in the chest, causing large cut wounds across his chest, and to be thrown onto the floor. 51 of 60 HP. Next was the Earth user who was by his side. 1 second, Quinn was in his view. The next moment, Quinn had performed a flash step, and at the same time, hammer struck, dealing a blow right on the chest. His chest piece started to crack until it eventually broke away. 46 of 60 HP. Suddenly, a sharp pain was felt inside Quinn's back. As he turned around, he could see the wind user holding the small little daggers in between his fingers. "I got you," he said. He threw another dagger, and it came out too fast for him to react, hitting Quinn's stomach. 42 of 60 HP. Quinn then looked at the dagger and pulled it out of his body. As he did, the wound slowly started healing as the skin could be seen coming back together, until finally there was nothing left apart from a hole in his military uniform. "You monster!" the student shouted. Continuously throwing blades, he managed to hit Quinn repeatedly. Making sure to cover his face with his hands, Quinn rushed forward, not caring for the small blades hitting his body. 38 of 60 HP. 34 of 60 HP. Without realizing it, the student was moving backwards out of fear. As he looked down around his waist, he could see the shadow wrapped around his body. "Now tell me, who sent you, and why did you attack me?" Quinn asked.
Hi, Quinn here. Wondering what happens next? If you want to jump the queue and unleash all episodes, click on the link here and install the Pocket FM app.